Welcome back to another episode of the Vision Hunters podcast. I'm your host, Cody Storey, and this is part one of episode number 17, Shamanic Journeys with a side order of sales and business talk with the Sales CEO Correy Berrier. First, before we get into today's show, new episodes of the Vision Hunters podcast are released every Wednesday on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Or if you want to watch the show, you can head on over to my Cody Storey YouTube channel. The spelling is CODYSTOREY. Second, before we get any deeper into this show, I am going to share a quick disclaimer. Everything discussed in today's show is based on our experiences and our experiences only. We are not doctors, we are not medical professionals, nor should you take anything that we have discussed in today's show as medical advice. We are not responsible for you or your actions. You are responsible for your own self. This was, I must say, one of the most fun episodes that I have recorded to date. It was a real pleasure having Correy on the show, and we had no idea that we were going to be discussing some of our experiences in relation to stopping drinking, stopping doing hardcore drugs, and also letting go of criminal behavior and the exploration of psychedelics. Well, the aim and the intention of the show was actually to discuss sales and business with Correy. However, we recorded a 2-hour, 2-part episode, and it starts off with some of the lessons that we have learned through exploring the inner workings of our minds, our hearts, and our subconscious minds. Also, as far as sales and business is concerned, Correy is a 25-year veteran in the sales and business and consulting space. So if you are looking to learn more about those subjects on top of exploring psychedelics and having spiritual experiences, he's got you covered. Some of the things that we discussed in part one are the 2 most powerful words in the English language, according to Correy, re-examining the whole idea of sobriety, the discovery of plant medicine and spiritual journeys via psychedelics, lessons learned from Mother Ayahuasca, letting go of control and old patterns of beliefs, the new perspective of the world due to having deep and profound spiritual experiences, true reverence for spiritual tools and the process of integration, why sales, Correy's journey into business and the obstacles he's overcome on the path to success, overcoming depression and the anxiety of not knowing what's next, finding the joy in giving back and providing others with solutions, unlocking your sales potential with the key of empathy versus sympathy, and the impact of the book Never Split the Difference, and the impact of the masterclass by the king of negotiation, Chris Voss, and how Correy and also how I have integrated the Black Swan Method skill sets into our communications. Now let's get into part one of episode number 17, Shamanic Journeys with a side order of sales and business talk with the Sales CEO Correy Berrier. Correy Berrier, welcome to the Vision Hunters podcast. It is a real pleasure to have you on the show today, my man.
Absolutely, Cody. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on, brother.
It's cool, man. It's so cool. I just interviewed Callie about 2 weeks ago, and we've been dropping his split episode because we chopped it up for like 2 hours. We went in deep, but also I found you by listening to his badass podcast. Like, End Hype is legit, folks. So if you didn't catch the drift the past 2 episodes, go listen to End Hype. Callie drops bombs. But then when I was listening to your episode with Callie, I was like, shit, it's time to do some sales. It's time to get surgical with some sales. And you were the sales CEO. And the way you guys were talking on that episode, I was like, we got to get you on the show.
Dude, I'm going to tell you something that I don't, and the truth is not a lot of people even know this because it's a fairly recent development, but Callie and I have now gone into business together, and we're doing some market disrupting shit, period. And and I can't go into great detail about one of the projects, but I can go into part of it. So, you know, obviously you've interviewed Callie, you know what he does. Callie's a very, you know, I refer to Callie as like a sniper. Like you don't see Callie coming. Like you see Callie, you're like, yeah, he's just a normal guy. And when it opens his mouth, like, oh my God, like you're just like, what? Where'd all this information come from? Like, how do you store all that shit in your brain? And so he is just an unbelievable wealth of knowledge. And so we ran a room in Clubhouse for, I don't know, about 6 months. And the truth is, you know, the room didn't grow massively, but you know, we committed and we showed up and we did the work. And even though it felt emptyless, sometimes it felt like we were wasting our time. A couple of things came out of that. Personally, one thing that came out of it is my speaking skills have gotten 100 times better. That's the first benefit that I really just didn't know was happening, but was happening. And then the second benefit is that Callie and I spent so much time together, we realized that there was a piece that he had and a piece that I had, and we brought a third guy in. And now we've created this. We've created a lead. It's an appointment generating company for solar companies and then also trades companies. In addition to that, dentists. And I know it seems like kind of a mishmash of different industries, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. If the value of the appointment's there, then our service will work. And we've dialed it in, and we have really made some moves. And there's a lot more to that one particular piece that I can't go into right this second because it's in the making, but it's a really big deal. And just watch and see. And in 6 months, our lives are going to look very different. The second piece to that is, you know, I have my Sales CEO Syndicate group coaching program, which there's my plug. And, you know, Callie came down and we just dove in super deep. I have all the knowledge in my head, right? It's just me getting it on paper. It's a little bit challenging. Certainly not that I can't write. I just, you know, one, you can't read it. And two, I'm just better at speaking what I want to say. Lots of times, I'll be totally honest with you. Lots of times in my post, even I'll talk them into my phone because it just flows better. It just comes out better. And so he helped me piece all that stuff together. Well, in that, what we've done is created a machine that is sales, marketing, course creation, and it works. And it's different from what everybody else is doing because people create courses and they don't know how to sell them. And they don't think about, well, how am I going to get to, lots of people think, and look, I've fallen victim to this in the past. If I build it, they will come.
Dude, God damn it. Let's drop a goddamn bomb on that shit, please.
But you know what? It's just not true.
No, like true. I harped on this shit like a couple weeks ago, and it's like, I thought that was real. I believe the whole Kevin Costner shit. I used to have a kind of mentor guy. Like I'm sober now. So I had a guy that was helping me get sober back when I was 23. And he really did help me get my business going when I opened up my gym. And I started with that. Just build it and they will come. And that's great. I built this shit. They showed up. But there's a difference between building something, creating a business, right? Even if you do it from scratch, it's badass. However, you got to run the business. And then what about the whole idea of scale your business and build it and they will come did not come with a manual on how to scale. So it got part of it right, but it doesn't get the whole equation. It just gets a goddamn little piece of the equation. So I'm glad you said that. And I'm glad you think like that because I believed it.
Yeah, bro. Yep. I get that. And it's interesting because well, let me ask you this. Let's scroll back for a bit. How long have you been sober?
I've been sober probably going on 16 years now.
That's excellent. So I also have not had a drink or a drug. When I say drug, like hardcore drug.
Yeah, I'll say this. I did open up what could have been a train wreck compared to how most people view things like this, such as Bufo. I don't know if you know about Bufo, but toad venom.
Unfucking real. Unbelievable that you mentioned that.
So I come from the sobriety world, 12-step recovery programs and everything, but I do have an open mind, which they help me learn how to have. And I've also had to, in the past year or two, explore these other possibilities as far as healing and as far as recovery and as far as going deeper than what I was doing just with the spiritual principles. And dude, woo, I'm blown away. And I had an experience over even Labor Day where, dude, I didn't even know psilocybin could take me there. And I'm still integrating that shit. So sorry to get sidetracked, but I just wanted to put that plug in as well as far as sobriety, because I know in my old world, people would think I'm crazy and would think that I went out again and that I did drugs again. But I think that's also a part of the agenda, as far as if we're being told that psilocybin or toad venom or ayahuasca is the devil, or that it's a drug and it's bad, we're never going to touch it. However, I have taken that risk. And if you want to talk about information and downloads and education and going deep, I don't think there's anything on the planet more powerful than that. So,
dude, you just don't even know what you just opened up. You have
Jesus.
no, and I could tell by the way you just said all that, you had no earthly idea sitting on this side of the table how I was going to respond.
Oh,
but
hell.
Guess what, bro? You just don't even know. So here it is. You ready?
Yeah.
So I hadn't had a drink in over 12 years. Notice I did not say I'm sober. There's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for that, because I started out in AA, right?
Mm-hmm.
12-step program, whatever. And you said something important, the agenda, right? So what I realized, Cody, is that when I realized that, the two most powerful words in the English dictionary are I am. And whatever comes after that typically is how things roll, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm standing up day after day saying I am, and no offense if you're still in AA or wherever you go, no offense.
I can feel where you're going with this, so let it rip.
But if I stand up and say I am an alcoholic, for me, that equates to I'm still that guy that came in the first day. I'm still that guy that's broken. I'm still the guy that doesn't know where the fuck he's going or what he's doing. And I realized in that moment, I'm certainly not that guy. This was, I don't know, 5-6 years into at that time I called it sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized I cannot in good faith identify as an alcoholic anymore, because I'm not an alcoholic. I haven't had a drink in over 12 years. And so I just can't get down with saying this. Just like I used to be fat. I don't identify as a fat dude. You know what I mean? So it's very similar. Now, let's get into the psychedelics.
All right.
Because last year, and you said so many things in there that I'm just getting ready to go fucking ham on.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is, what did you call it? Say it again.
Bufo.
Okay.
Yeah, it's when they extract the toad venom.
Yep. Okay.
5-MeO DMT. So not just like chemically made DMT. It's 5-MeO DMT, which is different as I've kind of gone into the research of it. Yeah.
Okay. So you are literally the third person in the last 12 days that I've had a conversation about this particular substance, because I had never heard of it. Now I had heard of, what's the other one? The other frog, the other toad.
Oh, the one where you like burn like a thing in the side of your arm.
Yeah.
And then you get
what is it called? Do you remember?
God damn. No, but my brother's done that. I can't remember what the hell you call it.
I can't remember either.
That was the only thing I heard of too before I heard about Bufo. So I feel you.
Yeah. So I have.
And I was like, that wasn't very appealing, to be honest with you.
What,
I mean,
the burning
I don't
part?
know if you've done it or not, but like, shit, maybe I just don't know because I haven't done it. I don't know. But the Bufo thing seemed to be a little bit more interesting to me.
Yeah, it is very interesting, and I have not done either one of them. So so I have no experience with either one. But the Bufo for sure, I'm going to look into that. In fact, anyway, long story short, it's on my checklist. But last year I did do 2 ayahuasca journeys. First time I'd ever done ayahuasca, and it's interesting because the first time that I went down and did it, the first night I fell asleep. I thought that's pretty weird. The second journey was a Saturday morning. So the first journey was Friday night, fell asleep, not a big deal. They say, oh, that's not a big deal. You know, the work can be done while you're asleep. In fact, people would prefer to not have to go through the hell of, you know, whatever. And so I kind of wanted the hell. I kind of wanted to experience what it was.
Yeah.
So Saturday morning, I took double the amount, and in rapé, right? They blew the rapé in my nose. I threw my guts up. So in that moment, what I realized is that I was in a certain, you know, kind of like a wooded area. I was outside with I don't know, 15 people. And I was looking around, and everybody around me, they were either laughing or they were crying or they were rolling around the grass or they were acting crazy. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why am I not doing any of that? And it was like a bolt of lightning came down. And clearly it was Mother Ayahuasca said, you're not here for them. You're here for you. That's your problem. You're worried about what everybody else is doing, and you don't focus on yourself. This is your time, not theirs. Pay attention to you. That was powerful for me because it was 100% true. And then the second part to that first 3 parts of the first journey is, so I fought it that Saturday night. I fought it like hell because I didn't want to throw up again. Well, as you probably know, but the listeners may not, that blocks the medicine from working. And so, because I controlled it, right? I did everything I could do not to throw up. And I didn't realize, obviously, what I was doing to the medicine. I didn't realize the effects or not effects that it would have had on me. And so that Monday, I came home and I was mowing my lawn with the same lawnmower I've used for 5 years. And what I realized is that I also have been comparing myself to my father. Like when I'm age 43, when he was 43, he was more successful. He had more things, and it's always been that way. So I've always felt a little bit inferior, right? I felt, and not that he made me feel that way ever, but it was my own personal belief. Now, I'll dive into the second one really quick because it was really important. So the second time I went down, I interviewed the medical director, and because I have a podcast, and so I interviewed the medical director. Well, the card on the camera that we were doing the interview on ran out. It stopped running, so we had to do the interview over. Now, here's the kicker. Here's the thing to that. I was pissed naturally, and so, but this is the universe working. And he asked me both times, but the second when we filmed it the second time, he said, he asked me more directly. He said, do you think you have control issues? And I said, well, probably. He said, why don't you just let the medicine do what it's supposed to do? Why don't you just not try to control the experience? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he was like, you said you were going to do this and you were going to do that. Just don't do anything. Just lay there and let the medicine work. And I'm like, but he was like, just lay there, dude. He's like, everybody comes here with control issues. Do you think you're the first person? You're not. He was like, so just let the medicine work. And I'm telling you, even though I had to talk to myself, and I may sound crazy when I say this, but I talked to Mother Ayahuasca as if I would God, you know, or anything else spiritual. And I'm going to say 30, 45 seconds after I let go, that's when it happened. And you know what I'm talking about. You blast off, you go into a different place. And and after that, it was a pretty good experience. And, you know, I had to learn a couple other valuable lessons. One, people value me more than I value me. That was one of the lessons. And then the second lesson, as I was sitting on the toilet, was patience. Because I hate sitting on the toilet. I'd rather be kicked in the nuts than sit on the toilet. And so but as I sat there, it was like, this is also one of your problems, dude. You try to rush everything and you miss stuff. Now, I don't know what I was going to miss in there, but it taught me a lesson to just sit there and be with you. Just sit and just not force it, not push it, not try to get in and get out. Just sit there. And so what's happened after these two experiences is my business has quadrupled. My life has gotten better. My my perspective on what's going on in the fucking world around us is wide open. And so people often, I'm sure people think that maybe I think that I'm psychic, which I don't claim to be psychic at all. But my third eye has been open, and you get it. I know you do. You understand what it's like to be able to look, to understand some of these interesting things that we have going on in our world right now, and just being able to see what it really is. What is it really? And we know, like, I think I know. I think I have a heightened sense of awareness, so to speak. Would you say that you've had that same experience?
Dude, when you say blast off, I think that's the best way to describe it, is blast off. Like, it takes me somewhere I had no idea existed. So if there is something I do know, is there's a lot more going on than just this material plane. And I don't know all about it, and I don't know everything about it. I just know there's a hell of a lot more to learn, and there's a hell of a lot more going on underneath all this stuff. And I saw behind the veil. Like, if you want to talk about even what's going on in the world, this shit's been going on since the goddamn planet has even existed and people inhabited it. People are people. People do what people do. We're human animals that are evolving consciously. And this is what evolution looks like. To go from just animal to a conscious human. So we could go deep on that, and I don't want to get too far off in the woods and sound all too crazy and woo-woo, but I ain't telling nobody to go do it. This is just me sharing my experience, just like you're sharing your experience. And I know things now that I can't unknow. And I know things now that I did not know existed prior to these experiences. Now, I haven't done ayahuasca. I have done bufo, which, talking to my brother, which you may want to check out his podcast, because this is like his whole world, the Lifestylist podcast. Or if other people want to do more research.
Whoa. Who?
My brother Luke Story has a podcast, and like, this is his whole world, is this kind of stuff.
Are you fucking joking with me right now, dude?
No,
I didn't I'm like, I saw your last name, but it didn't even. I've talked to Luke, not talked to Luke. We've messaged back and forth because I wanted. Look, I'm gonna tell you something that's gonna blow your mind, dude. So, do you know Dr. Conover?
I think I've heard of Dr. Conover. Yeah.
Of course you have.
Yeah.
Of course you have. So I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I know. Well, I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure Luke has shared stuff about Dr. Conover. So Dr. Conover is a doctor that him, myself, Aubrey Marcus, I don't know if Joe Rogan, but a lot of these guys you work with Dr. Conover because he's cutting edge, bro. He does some really cool shit. And so I had reached out to Luke because I think he had Dr. Conover on his podcast, actually.
He might have, yeah.
I think he did. And so I had reached out to Luke. That's so fucking funny, dude. That's so funny. I had no idea he was your brother. But yeah, I like him. He's a great guy. He seems like a great guy. I really like him a lot.
So what I was saying is, as you've described ayahuasca to be, or how he's described his experiences with ayahuasca, bufo was my first big step into something beyond what I've tried in the past. Because when I was younger, I did LSD, I did mushrooms, but I was at a different place in my life, which I think changed my experience. And back then I was trying to escape. I was trying to run. I was trying to flee. I was trying to have fun and be entertained and, touch these things that seemed to be wild or dangerous or things you shouldn't do. Like, that was what drove me to them. But now today, I ain't running. I'm trying to go inside, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can and go as deep as we can go before I go and just kind of disappear off into the ethers or the cosmos. But yeah, man, like, I'll just add to this, and we might dive into some sales today. Maybe not, folks. You got to stay tuned to figure out. But I'll say my experience over Labor Day with psilocybin, dude, when my brother talks about ayahuasca, or when you just even opened up about some of the things that came to you, I have never in my entire life had an experience with psilocybin where I went into different portals in different dimensions. I mean, I'm talking all the way back to the pyramids and aliens, the Luciferian agenda, the system, the grid, like the spiritual war that has existed on this planet ever since, like I said, we've inhabited it, and what's going on beneath what we're seeing as far as on this material plane when we look at people through like social media, like the computer, Google, the internet, like it is so much deeper, and it's been going on for so much longer. And I didn't know that that stuff could take me to that place. And it just has blown the lid off of even all my prior experiences with psychedelic substances. So I'm glad to be talking about this with you. And
Dude, I'm gonna tie it together for you.
Okay.
I'm gonna because I, like you, I had never in my life had an experience like ayahuasca until I'm gonna say about a month and a half to 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I took some mushrooms, and it went just as deep as my ayahuasca journey. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Like, I had no earthly idea that was even a possibility, because as you mentioned, I've never had any, I've taken mushrooms to laugh. I've taken mushrooms to have fun. I've also microdosed mushrooms for mental, depression, for just to be a happier person. And I don't mean like, well, you understand what I say, microdose. So, but I've never had that deep of an experience until I guess it was 2 months ago, somewhere in that vicinity. And it absolutely took me right to where ayahuasca does. And it's very interesting because I didn't really know that was a possibility. I didn't know you could get to that deep of a level with just psilocybin.
Me neither. Had
no idea.
Freaking clue, bro. And it took me by surprise, bro. And I was like, even in the middle of it, there was another person that was going on their journey as well. And I was like, yo, this is powerful. And then there was like not really a response to that. I'm like, no, dude, this is really powerful, bro. And I didn't know if he was going where I was going. I don't know if he went where I went, but I was just like, wow, I have really underplayed the significance of this. I have really downplayed the reverence and the respect for such a powerful tool. And in the culture that I was brought up in, which might be the same culture that you were brought up in here in the States, dude, like I just look at it from a whole nother light in terms of respect, because it knocked my socks off. And I'm like, well, this is why they get prepared before they do these things. This is why they have a shaman or someone guiding them through the process. And this is why after that journey or that trip or whatever you want to describe it to be takes place, once you come out back into where we are now, there is another process that lays ahead that they have people that have helped them with that in terms of the integration. And I'm just like, man, oh man, like what number one, what was that? And why has this been, the question that comes is like, why has this been kept from us? And I know underneath that there's a reason as to why there are certain, let's say, people that don't want this in other people's hands, which is also why I can see certain people have tried to get rid of certain things as far as other people's spiritual beliefs.
That's right.
There's an agenda behind all that to me now.
100%
There's reasons, and those reasons happen to be connected to evil rather than the opposite of that, which would be love to me. So wherever you want to go with that one, that's just kind of what came to mind after you just riffed on it a bit.
Well, so I'm going to work backwards. So I'm going to talk about the love that I felt when I went to the place that I did ayahuasca, which was here in the States.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a level of compassion, a level of heartfelt, just abundantly caring and loving that comes out of that experience. I can't
Yeah.
really explain it. I don't know how to explain it. In fact, there's a lot about ayahuasca that's hard to explain. And the integration the week after, I'll be completely transparent with you. It's an interesting week. And what I mean by that is I usually take that whole week and I don't really do anything because I'm getting back into society, because when you experience something so powerful and then you step on an airplane with crying babies and masks
Bro.
and fucking
Bro.
it's like it is
Yo.
like out of God's hands into the frying pan, bro. It
Yep.
is like what? And I mean, I made the mistake of flying back last time, and I almost lost my mind in the airplane, dude. Almost lost it because
I
I was
bet.
not, I had
Yep.
nothing but love around me for 72 hours, and then you walk into this disaster of a world we're living in. And I don't want people to think that I'm being negative about, how the things that are going on in the world, but let's just be honest, like it's hard to explain a lot of this shit,
Yeah.
because you can't get information from anywhere, it seems like, that can be a legitimate source. You can look at your news station or your feed or your whatever, and you're going to get what you like to get. And
Mm-hmm.
so, which removes me from understanding sometimes about the other side. And so
Right.
here's where I want to, because we're going to dive, I feel confident we're probably going to dive into this a little bit. But the point is that I need to be open to the possibilities of what maybe things that I don't know. I need to be open to the possibilities that maybe some of these doctors are telling the truth. I need to be open to not the politicians, not Dr. Fauci's dumbass, not the FDA. Like, I don't believe, I have zero trust in any kind of government entity at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I think if they would have just shot us straight to begin with, this thing would have turned out very differently. Now, the other part to that is, this kind of goes back to that higher consciousness. Like, I can see the reason why psilocybin is very hard to find. You can't get it legally. Ayahuasca has got a lot of parameters around it.
Mm-hmm.
The reason is because if the people up, that are in the government or whatever, really wanted mental health to get better, they would open this up to the free market. The problem with that is the drug companies are paying the politicians, they're feeding the FDA, they're feeding all of these entities that keep them right where they are. The same thing happens with food companies. They're
Mm-hmm.
all driven by the dollar,
Yep.
and there's nothing wrong with making all the money in the world that you want. I have no problem with that. I think everybody should make as much money as you can, but not off the backs of people that
Yeah.
are not aware that you're making money off of them being miserable.
Yep.
That's where I have a problem. And that's why mainstream is so resistant about introducing even marijuana up until a few years ago, right? You
Bro.
couldn't, it was the devil's drug. Like, give me a fucking break, dude. Like,
Yep.
smoking a joint. Do you know how many times have you read in the paper, not that you could believe it anyway, but if you did, of somebody smoking a joint and going and blowing up somebody's fucking house or killing a family, or you don't hear
Mm-hmm.
about that shit because it doesn't happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? You might hear about somebody driving too slow or falling, whatever. Like, you're just not going to hear these terrible stories like you do with people that are drinking and driving, or people that
Yep.
are on, methamphetamines and
Yep.
all of these things. And my point is, the pharmaceutical companies don't want this information out because it hurts their pocket.
Yep. Yep.
That's what I believe.
The power of the dollar. And I agree with you as far as making money. I think everybody has the right to make as much as they want. But the intention behind it is really, really important, especially when it's hurting people on such a deep, deep level, whether it's mental or whether it's just pure physical wellness and all of that. So yeah, there's a lot going on as far as that web that you started to tap into and how it's all connected and what I call the system.
That's right.
Now that I was able to see it more than just reading it on a document on the internet, right? Because I can read things and trail and trace things back and connect the dots. But dude, with the places that you go with these substances, man, you see it. You see it in life, and it all comes to life. Like, I don't know how to explain it. You see it in life and it comes to life, and you see it more than just words, more than just documents, more than just like reading a goddamn encyclopedia. So yeah, man, this is
Well,
wild. Yeah,
yeah.
go. No, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say, so I'm an NLP practitioner, and I don't do a lot of NLP stuff, but
Okay.
I am a practitioner. And so the point is that, with NLP, everything that we remember, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but we don't really remember words, right? We remember pictures. Imagine for a second, think about when you were 10 years old and you got your first bike, right? You can imagine what that bike looked like. You can even imagine maybe even where you were. Maybe you got it for Christmas. Maybe you got it for your birthday, whatever that looks like. But that's how we remember. We don't remember text, right? We don't think of a time back in our when we were 16 years old, and we don't view that in text form ever. Like everything that we remember is all pictures. Period. I don't know why I
Yep.
brought that up, but there was something triggered me to
Well,
say
I was
that.
talking about how I am able to see the system, or I've seen the system. It's been revealed to me, but it wasn't like how I've looked at the system in the past before doing something psychedelic where you go into different dimensions. Like just
That's
seeing it and connecting those dots. That was one level of like being aware or informed, but this stuff brought it to life, like you're saying. And I think that's because we go inside when we do these substances. Like when you say go on a journey, we're not like necessarily going on a journey through words. We're going on a journey into different dimensions, and we're there. Like I'm literally there because it's in my mind, in my conscious mind, and goes into my subconscious mind. So 100%, we don't see words. And that's why for me, it's probably so goddamn hard for me to memorize shit like that. Words just ain't my thing when it comes to memorization. But pictures and imagination, we can tap into that. Ideas, opportunities, and seeing them, we can tap into that. Now, I just want to say before we eventually get into sales and business and entrepreneurship and money making and all that good stuff, you mentioned getting on an airplane after you just had this experience. And I just want to put this a big lesson, because I tapped into it a second, but you brought it back out and you shared your experience with that. And after I did Bufo, I went to work like 2 days later, and it was the biggest mistake I ever made with that. And I had an email that was sent to me that was saying you need about a week to 30 days to decompress and integrate. And I was like, okay, yeah, well, I guess I could go to work in 2 days. If I do it on Friday, I can go to work on Monday. Oh my God, dude. Now, as far as where I'm coming from with that, the lesson is a minimum of, if you even said 7 days, a minimum of a week, 7 days. I have to, if I go that deep, I have to give myself that gift and allow it to continue doing what it does. Because even having those experiences, whether it's months ago, a year ago, XYZ ago, I'm still learning. It's the trippiest phenomenon, but I'm still learning. And for me to just go from that place to jumping back into what's going on or in the airplane or back to work, to me, it just kind of subtracts from all of what I just went through. And it can be pretty rough, man. It can be pretty gnarly. Like it wasn't all just like rainbows and butterflies for me. I saw the darkest of the dark side of myself. I saw the darkest of the dark side of others and the planet and the world. And I can't go from there to there like that. It needs its time. And so that was a big lesson of mine, is respecting that it is a process. It's not a thing I just do on a weekend and then it's all good. It's not a thing I just do one night and then it's all good. All cheerio. So anyway, that's that. Anything you want to say there before we do try
Yeah,
to get into sales?
I am glad that you brought that up, because listen, for the audience, right? For everybody that's listening to this, what Cody just said was so important. Like, you may be thinking that that's probably just for those guys. I'd probably be okay. And I'm here to tell you, you may be thinking that, but you're going to find out really quickly when you don't listen to the way Cody just described that, because I had, within that 7 days, it was just, you're in a different spot, you're in a different place, and you need to be able to absorb what's happened. You need to be able to make some sense of it, and you need to make sure that you're good. Like you're good for everybody else in addition to yourself,
Yeah.
right? And so I think it's super important. The integration period is massive.
Yep.
So
Yep.
with that being said, I'll shut up about this.
Okay. So going from other dimensions back into one of the topics we're going to try to get into now, which is, okay, you're the sales CEO. You've been at this craft for 25 years. Why sales? And like, how did you even get into it? You can give me the cliff notes on that, because obviously we went from like 0 to 200 miles per hour within our first sentences of talking to each other today. So you don't have to go crazy deep into that, but like, why sales? And like 25 years is a very long time to dedicate yourself to something. And how did you get it to the level in which you're operating with the sales CEO?
Great question. So I started look, I've kind of been a hustler my whole life. And sometimes good, sometimes not good. 2005, I got caught with 4 ounces of cocaine, and I got charged with trafficking cocaine. It's still on my record. Hence, I got a felony. So that's one of the reasons that, well, I'll get there. So I've been in sales for a long time, and I've just seen a lot of success with it. And at that time, I was making a whole bunch of money selling dope. Now, I wasn't selling dope to kids on the street. I wasn't, none of that shit. I dealt with very upper class people. I'm not justifying what I was doing. I'm just letting you know that I wasn't, this dude slinging dope to your kid. And so that happened. I also didn't finish college because I partied too much. So if you add those two things together, that equals having a real hard time finding a job. So so in 2009, I actually I had started a sales job. I've always been in sales. All right. I've not really done anything outside of, I have done other things in sales, but sales has still been the core of it. And maybe that's just because it's just me. I just really enjoy it. I'm not really sure, but I'm also pretty damn good at it. I would put my sales ability up against just about anybody's, because I've seen so many different things. And so in 2009, the year I stopped drinking, I started working in a gym, and I was selling memberships, realized there was too much. There was really not any money in that. And so I decided to move over to the training side. Long story short, I opened a personal training gym, a facility. And
lots of parallels, my man.
Right. And so I sold that and opened up a hormone replacement clinic. So we did testosterone, we did human growth hormone, peptides, we did laser hair removal. It was pretty cool. I'll be honest. It was really fucking cool. And I got into that business with a little bit of knowledge, not enough to open a business like that. And I went in with a partner that had zero knowledge about that business, but he had the money. So we partnered up, and things went sideways. He started screwing a girl that I fired, and I didn't know. And in October 2018, he walked into my office. Now, keep in mind, I ran the whole shit. He didn't do anything because he didn't. I think he finished 3rd grade. Like that's the type of education we're dealing with here. And so he didn't know anything about that business, but he trusted me that I knew enough about it. And I did believe that I knew enough about it. And I thought we had the guidance. Well, the guidance kind of left us. Long story short, things went sideways because I tried to do everything. And if you're thinking about starting a business, I'm going to go ahead and tell you there are going to be times when you do have to wear a bunch of different hats, but you don't have to always do that. And when you try to do that to pinch a dollar, it's going to cost you far more money than that dollar you could have spent on somebody helping you.
Yep.
And that's what I found to be true. I didn't even really know about coaches at the time. I just didn't really know. I wasn't in the personal development world like that. I didn't really know that. I mean, I just didn't know. I didn't know. It's as simple as that. And so, and even if I would have known, my business partner probably wouldn't want to pay for it, right? Because he came from a very different mentality than I did. And so when that happened, I was pretty down. And that's when I started microdosing. About, I'm going to say about 8 months after that. And the reason is because I was pretty depressed, dude. I mean, I thought this was the end all be all. I thought this was my ticket. This was it. This was where I was going to land my plane. And then it all of a sudden came to a stop. And I didn't know what to do with myself. Because, I had owned the personal training business. And as you know, you sell that, it's gone. Like there's no recouping. I mean, yeah, you can build it back, but it takes a lot of time.
Sure does.
And I didn't want to do personal training anymore. As you and I talked before the show, I was just tired of it. I was just really tired of it. And so to answer your question about sales, I really enjoy bringing people solutions. I enjoy helping them with what it is in their business that is usually suffering, which is either their marketing or their sales or both. And so I enjoy bringing solutions to people's lives selfishly because it makes me feel pretty good about myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, I make pretty damn good money doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would probably add to that, I don't know what business doesn't need help with it. Right. Because as we mentioned at the beginning of this show, it's like the field of dreams. You can build it and they might come, they might show up. But what about your marketing? What about your sales? And that's the shit I didn't tap into when I had my business. And that's why I kind of was at this certain level for so many years where it was good for a high school dropout. And I was like, wow, man, I did it. I did it. I did it from sleeping on the floor. I built a loft in my second space, slept in there again, did it again. It's like, oh shit. I didn't even think of the sales and the marketing because I'm sure for you, like it did come pretty natural. Like when you believe in something and you have the expertise in that thing, I didn't feel like I was selling. I was just having a conversation with somebody and they had a problem. They wanted help with it. And because of where I came from, it closed the deal. And it didn't matter if it was $2,000, $3,000 or more. It went through. So I never dedicated the time to figure out a sales process. I never taught any of my coaches a sales process. I just figured they should be able to do what I do because I've been teaching them how to be great at coaching. And I was stuck in the identity of the craftsman rather than the business owner. And I became the E-myth as well. Talk about, build it, they will come. But then I got stuck working in the business, like you said, spinning all the hats or spinning all the plates, wearing all the hats, however we say that. And dude, that's where it got me to that place of my health started changing. Pain in my body started really showing up. I was getting fatigued on even the idea of having to teach people and coach people on these same topics over and over. And the burnout came and it just became boring. Not that I didn't like helping people, but I did. I did still like helping people. I still do like helping people. It's just got to change. It's got to be a different way. So when you just mentioned there's something inside of you that really feels good about helping somebody go from where they are to getting what they need to go to where they want to go, I identify deeply on that.
Well, the other part to that too is, Cody, if you make a lot of money, it gives you the ability to help other people. If you don't make any money, it gives you zero ability to help other people. I'll tell you a quick story. Yeah. The other day, I dropped my wallet in walking out of Harris Teeter, and the guy flagged me down before I left. And he said, I think you forgot something. We went through the whole blah, 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 blah. And he gave me the wallet. And I started to drive off. And I'm like, nope, no. I'm like, dude, this guy just saved you hours of fucking with the credit card companies, calling the bank, canceling the cards. Plus, I had $600 cash in my wallet. He also just saved you $600.
Yeah.
So turn your ass around and give him $100. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to even He could have turned it into the front desk and said, and been on his merry way, but he didn't do that. And when I gave it to him, he said, dude, that's not necessary. I said, I know it's not necessary. It's necessary for me to give it to you because you just saved me. And I went through everything I just said. And he said, well, man, that was really nice. And I said, dude, you just saved me so much time and effort. You're the one that did something nice, not me. It's just $100. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But if I didn't have the money to give him, well, then I wouldn't have had that great feeling of driving away, knowing I may have just made that guy's day, maybe. And I enjoy that. And every year, because of Tony Robbins' story, my wife and I, we multiply the families every year. First year, we did 3 families. Last year, we did, year before, we did 6. Last year, we did 12. This year, I don't know if we'll do whole 24 because it's just us. It's a lot of work. But my point is that I can't describe to you the feeling that I get, the high. It's unlike anything else I've ever felt in my life when I get to drive away from that person's house, knowing they may not have had food that holiday. And the joy that they feel and the love that they show when you do something so kind and so nice out of the goodness of your heart. We pay for everything, right? I don't raise money for it. We just pay for it. And I don't say that to boost me up because it's not that's not the point. The point is it is a really amazing feeling, far better than keeping that money. It's far better feeling doing something nice for somebody else and seeing that appreciation. And you don't always get it. You don't always get the appreciation. You get some people that are shitbags. Now, fortunately, I haven't run into that in the last couple of years, so that's cool. But even if I do, that's okay because their life is probably far worse off than mine is. And I've got to be empathetic to that. In empathy, let's segue into the sales conversation.
Yep.
Empathy is one of the most important things when it comes to sales. And let me explain what I mean by empathy, and I'll clarify the difference in empathy and sympathy. So empathy is being able to see it from the other side. Empathy is for me to be able to sit on the other side of the table where my customer is and see it from their standpoint. And then for me to be able to articulate it in a way that they can understand. Now, sympathy is, I feel sorry for you, or you're at a funeral and you feel bad for the person that died or their spouse. That's sympathy. Empathy is more being just a good, genuine human being and thinking about other people's feelings and thinking about how this makes them feel. I don't do this 100% of the time, but if I'm talking to a potential customer or client, guarantee I do it every single time because I don't want them to feel uneasy. I want people to feel comfortable when they're having a conversation with me. Why? Why would I want them to feel comfortable? I think it's common sense. They're probably going to pull the trigger if they feel more comfortable with me. Yep. However, if they feel uncomfortable with me, they're most likely not going to even think about pulling that trigger. And it's my job to articulate that to the customer.
Or if you talk them into it, they're going to get cold feet and buyer's remorse. Because
that's right.
From that state that they were in where they just agreed, maybe they're a people pleaser or something. Now they just put some money down and they got what they got for that money. But now they're in a different state thinking about what they just did. And now they're uncomfortable. And guess who gets to deal with that? I mean, you could run away from it if you want, or you can have that conversation with the person. I think that's dependent on the business and the business owner and how people want to go about their business practices. But that's not a fun place to be with somebody. That's not a fun conversation to have. And I think people can always maybe get buyer's remorse. And there's times to coach people into, encouraging them that they can believe in themselves finally, or say yes to themselves finally, and that they can do that. And I think that's there. But what you're talking about is different, which to me comes from like high pressure sales or hard closing, or being a closer. And the reason I love having folks like you on the show and talking about these things is because, as I said earlier, I didn't feel like a salesman when I was, owning a gym and helping people get what they wanted. But now I've decided to go into that world as far as high ticket sales, selling coaching and mentorship and processes. But I've had an experience where I've been going through these different companies and they have their different ways of selling. And how I started was actually through hardcore sales, if you want to call it hardcore, just the high pressure close and rebuttals. And when they say this, you say that. Like, I think one of the books I was told to read was one of Grant Cardone's. It's just like Closer or some shit. It's just all closes. And you just keep doing that. Talk about making people feel uncomfortable. Dude, I made people feel so weird and so uncomfortable. And what it was, now that I can see it later, hindsight is 2020, is there was zero empathy. It was 100% selfish. It was 100% me just seeing what I can get rather than really being present and listening to what's going on with somebody, helping them get what they want. And then going deeper from that into then I came across, what was it? The Wolf of Wall Street after Cardone. I like the straight line as far as like Pluto and all that shit. That's cool. I get that. But then there's some stuff in there I didn't necessarily resonate with. Then I came across the works of Keenan, gap selling. So selling to the gap, current state, future state, and identifying problem, impact of the problem, root causes of the problem. The sale is dependent upon the size of the gap. And then I went into, what was it? Oh, reframing or framing, which was pitch anything with what's dude's name? What's his name? God damn, pitch anything. Where's the book? It's over there. I forget the dude's name. Oh, Warren Claff. And then to circle it back to what you mentioned, so I'm not getting lost in the weeds, folks. You talked about empathy. And the first I started really hearing about empathy was through the book Never Split the Difference. And that was by Chris Voss. And I took a couple courses of his, and it's almost like doing Bufo, because now I can't go back to what I once knew or thought. Now I'm in this dilemma of I'm with a new company, and we are selling coaching and mentorship, and that's pretty consistent with what I've wanted to sell. However, there's a sales system, and it's pretty legit. I'll be honest. And I'm not going to say the name of whose system it is. It's pretty legit. Like, it's cool. It can really help people go from like no sales experience to getting in the trenches, get their reps and start getting their bearings. And it's helping me even. However, this empathy thing, I really, truly feel that it's missing that piece, because it's still got kind of that selfish vibe to it. And it's not that I'm setting out to be selfish, and I work with it to try as much as I can to come from an empathetic place. But dude, once he started moving in that direction, Chris Voss, and listening to his stuff and then taking some courses with him, I'm just like, holy shit, this is like a whole nother level. Even the very basics of yes based questions versus no based, and how that makes someone feel. Dude, talk about comfortable or uncomfortable. Ask a yes-based question, because they do want me to do tie downs, which are getting people to say yes. And dude, every now and then I'll just be like, does that sound too ridiculous? Instead of asking, does that make sense? And the way they feel is night and day. And I feel it. So if I feel it, they're definitely feeling different. Does that make sense? Dude, so is that something you can commit to? Like, what the fuck, man? Okay. Dude, so
you're right. No, you're right. It's so crazy that you bring up now Chris Voss, because I have been doing massive dive into both him. I just was listening to the guy's name. I'll find it in a second. I can't remember the other guy's name. But long story short, I've been diving super deep. I've probably watched Chris's masterclass probably 9 times. Like, that's because I want to understand exactly how he does it, because he is the fucking king, dude. He's so good.
Such the master. This is my little sheet here. I don't know if you can see it, folks.
Yeah.
Label. And even, dude, this was a trip too. His son, Brandon Voss, was talking about even he mislabels things on purpose, because people love correcting people. And when they correct me, they're explaining more they're giving, in essence, more information, right? So label, mislabel, mirror, which I only heard about mirroring in terms of body language. And then I've heard people just say like, oh, well, when they say this, just repeat the last, little bit of what they say. But I didn't really understand mirroring and like the underpinnings or the inner workings of it. And then dynamic silence, paraphrasing, summary, calibrated questions, which are what questions and how questions. And then also using labels to ask questions, so you don't even ask a question. And then you have things like iMessages, encouragers, and tone, the rule of three. Like, dude, all this shit is just blowing me away. And when you say the king, bro, dude, he is on a whole nother, he's in a whole nother dimension.
He absolutely is. I can't, go ahead.
No, you go for it.
So I want to tell you this, and you're going to know, have you seen the masterclass?
I've seen the masterclass, and then I signed up for 2 of his courses so far. I haven't done the full 3-day one, but that's on the agenda.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to you. We could talk about that later on, because I am interested to hear what your experience has been, which I'm sure it's been phenomenal. But I will tell you what I have. It was very uncomfortable, but I implemented it exactly the way he said to do it, and that's the hotel clerk. Do you remember?
Yeah.
So every time, so we travel all the time. Every time now I check in or out of a hotel, I walk up to whoever is working the front desk, and I say to them, if I'm checking out, I say, I'm about to make your day ridiculously difficult. And then I stop talking. And every single time they're like, what happened? What? I need a late checkout. Not a problem. What time do you want to leave? 4 o'clock, 3? I mean, and it happened 100% of the time. Not once have I failed. Not once. And I do it checking in. If I get there at 9 a.m. and I know the check-in's at 3 p.m., I walk right up and I use the same process and I get in every single time.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing, dude.
Yep.
It's like magic.
Dude, it is. It blows my mind. Like it twists and wrings my brain out. It literally turns my brain inside out. And what's amazing is it's so much more effortless than all the other ways I've been trying and testing out as far as how other people see sales. But what's interesting, you talk about the hotel thing. One of his homework assignments in one of the courses I took was to get one of my bills discounted just using labeling and mirroring. And I actually save now 60 or 80 bucks a month on my Verizon bill just because I did the homework. And all I did was apply his stuff. And then, oh yeah, you do ask for a discount at the end, but it's a no-based ask. So instead of asking, so can I get a discount? It's more like, would it be impossible for me to be able to get a discount? Even if you want to use the word discount, I think I worded it different, but it was a no-based question. And the first person didn't get very far with that person, but I did on the second call because I was like, damn it, he only said to do this once, but I'm like, I couldn't settle for it. I was like, I got to try this again because it felt goofy the first time. Second time felt way better. And that person went to work for me, dude. Oh, let me check with this person and then check with this person. She comes back and she's like, yeah, well, actually you have this package, which costs this much. And you'd get the exact same thing for this price. And I was like, perfect. So would it be impossible for me to get that? And now we save 60 or 80 bucks a month. I even have a video of it. I put it on YouTube because I was so blown away. But anyway, dude, I'm glad there's another person in the sales realm that's tapping into that. Because actually one of my questions here today to ask you was what's the difference? Because I actually have noticed on LinkedIn, certain sales, gurus or whatever, they don't like negotiation, or they think it's some other thing and that it wouldn't work in sales. So my question is, and maybe you have some experience with this, which is what's the difference, just on a really basic level? What's the difference between sales and negotiation? And why do you think maybe some of these people, you're a veteran, you've been in it for 25 years, they've been around, as far as the people I follow, they've been around. What is the difference between those two? And why do you think people are so adverse to maybe opening their minds to this new thing? Or it's been around, but let's just call it Chris Voss has maybe been coming up to the surface for the past few years pretty heavy. So why do you think people in the sales world object to that shit?
Great question. So the number one reason salespeople fail is because
that's it, folks. Thanks again for tuning in. To get in touch with Correy, you can find him on Instagram at Correy Berrier. The spelling is CoreyBerrier, or you can Google him and go to his website, and that is CorreyBerrier.com. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review, hit the old like button, subscribe to the show, and share the show with everyone you know. If you'd like to go on the Vision Hunters journey together, you can find me over on Instagram at the Vision Hunters Podcast, and also at Cody Allen Story, CODYALANSTOREY. Once again, welcome to the Vision Hunters Podcast. Peace out.